Hello and welcome to the Daily Forex Report for February 1st. We are looking at the US-Japanese yen pair. This pair moved to the downside, did break its previous session's low, bounced right off of the 7,600 mark. I am still looking for a reversal on this one, even though we've had a strong move to the downside. Look for it to potentially go as high and hit some resistance around the 76.50 mark. Possibly moving down and hitting support again at 76.00. Now, the Euro-USD pair, this pair is starting to move sideways, or is moving sideways. Look for this pair to potentially go as high as 133.49, possibly as low as 129.41. Look for some resistance around 132.15, and look for some support around 130.25. Now the pound-US dollar pair continues to move higher. Look for it to potentially move up and hit some resistance around 159.00, possibly moving down and hitting support around 157.00 to the downside. Now the US Swiss, this pair is moving sideways as well. Did close down for the day. Look for it to potentially go as high as 0.9309, possibly as low as 0.9024. Look for some resistance around 0.9250, and look for some support around 0.9105. Now, as far as news announcements go, we have tomorrow we have the Euro releasing their Eurozone Producer Price Index for December at 5 a.m. Eastern. Consensus on that one is that it has dropped from 5.3% down to 4.3%. Full point move there, which would be negative news for the euro. Now at 10 a.m. Eastern, we have the U.S. Fed's Bernanke testifying before the Budget Committee, the House Budget Committee. Definitely going to move the markets depending on what he says, so you may want to be aware of that, between 10:11 or 10 noon time frame, markets are probably going to be a little quiet until he comes out and says something that of course will make them move. Although with rates being the way they are, we should see, they've already come out and said they're going to hold rates low for a good while. It takes something pretty big to change that. Okay, now let's talk about the pound. If you zoom out a little bit, and we're going to look at something a little bit longer term than we typically do. Let's go to the week time frame, take a look at this. You can see that we have potentially have some moves, trend line moves here. We've hit a couple of times, 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, ideally you want to see a trend line hit at least 3 points. We have one here that moves down pretty steep right around in this neighborhood, and if you back out even further, you can see that we have a very long trend line starting in this range and touching once, twice, and now 3 times. So let's take a look at that from a closer view. Now we were on the week. Now I've switched to the day time frame. The reason I'm doing that is to drop down, and we should still be able to see some of those trend lines. Now you can tighten that up. You can see it's hit it several times here. We broke above it on the day time frame last just a couple of weeks ago. Thought there would be some strong resistance at this area. We've hit it 1, 2, 3 times here, and it has stalled a little bit here. We had a pullback day, broke through it today. So where could this potentially go? If you're not in a pound trade right now, and you want to get into one, you could take today's high right here at 158.78, and then look for potential as far as where would this potentially go to. You can see here that where it ran into resistance today was support back in this area, and that's kind of how how it goes. But you see resistance along here about a little over 100 pips up. So a good play would be to go ahead and, let me zoom back in, would be to place go ahead and place a buy right here at 158.78, because we're breaking through previous area of support, which is now resistance. Put a stop loss down at 157.55, and then look to exit where we've had previous resistance at the 160.98. Now if it does break up to that point, you could also look to go to break even and see if it'll hit this long-term weekly trend line right around the 163.50 mark. This is a little bit longer play, obviously, but this is the case. If it does start to pull back, most likely it's going to pull back to this point, which is another long-term trend line. If it breaks through it, it'll probably go down to this weekly one. So let's take a look at kind of what that looks like from a risk to reward standpoint. About 219 to the upside, risking about 130, 126 or so. So pretty good risk to reward, over 1-to-1 in your favor. So that is kind of what I'm looking at during this next session. Being able to take weekly trend lines and support and resistance lines and then drop down to the day time frame really ups your odds whenever you are looking to trade. And also using 3 points for your trend lines and scaling out, looking back at least 6 time periods. So if you're on the day time frame, I like to look at each month would be 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that gives me a good view of what's going on. You could even draw this trend line further up if you wanted to and adjust it a little bit to right about there. You can see it's touched it a couple of times here, here, and then here. I hope that helps, and until next time, this is Jason Fielder. Good trading.